Today's scripture lesson is taken from John 20, 19 through 29, from the Good as New translation. On Sunday evening, when the friends of Jesus met, they locked the doors of the house because they were afraid of the police. Jesus joined them and said, "Keep calm, everybody." Then Jesus showed them his hands and his side. The friends went wild with joy when they realized their leader was alive. Jesus had to say again, "Keep calm. The loving God gave me a job to do, and now I'm going to give you something to do." They felt the breath of Jesus on them as he said, "Let God's Spirit in. From now on, it's your job to free people from their guilt. Otherwise, they will remain prisoners of their past mistakes." Twin was not there when Jesus came. The other friends told him, "We've seen the leader." Twin said, "I won't believe you that until I see the holes made by the nails in his wrists and put my finger into them. And I have to examine his side too." Next week, Twin was there when the friends met again in the house. The doors were locked, but Jesus joined them and said, "Keep calm." Then he spoke to Twin. "Come on, Twin, have a good look at my hands and my side. It's okay if you want to touch. It's time for you to get over your doubts and start trusting." Twin said, "My God, it's the leader." Jesus said, "It's easy for you to trust me now that you've seen me. Those who trust me without seeing me deserve their happiness."
Dear friends, I just love the second Sunday of Easter. And I love this pericope, this reading, which is appropriate for this Sunday. The pericope about doubting Thomas. That's the name behind Twin. It's the same. Twin and Thomas, that's only a translation of the same name. Like names have their translations and meanings, and that is the meaning of Thomas, being twin. And I like talking about those different legends associated with this twin or Thomas. And we have very popular YouTube clip about twin being actually twin of Jesus. There were early legends about it among the Christians. I don't subscribe to it, but they are quite ancient. I like talking about these things and defending Thomas. But above it all, I like this opportunity to talk about diversity among early Christians. And it is diversity which many people today can hardly imagine being part of the same religion. We can start with the theology proper, therefore talking about God. And of course, there were Christians who believed in one God, the Jewish God. But there were also Christians in early centuries who believed in two gods. And there were also Christians who believed in hundreds of gods. Or divine beings, there were Christians who insisted there were as many gods as members of number of initiated members. Sometimes even as many as number of all living people, each person being a divine being. So that is pretty big diversity, isn't it? Christology was similarly diverse. There were Christians who believed that Jesus was prophet and even Messiah, but that did not necessarily mean that he was divine. Being Son of God did not necessarily mean full divinity for them. Kings were often called Son of God. And ancient times knew many other sons of God. So for some Christians in early centuries, being son of God did not mean being co-equal with God. There were Christians who believed that Jesus became divine, that he was adopted at different times or stages of his life. In the Bible, we have even signs of it. That adoption formula is present at Jesus' own baptism. Then it appears at the transfiguration on a mountain. Then during resurrection, and finally at the time of ascension. These, of course, did not believe in virginal birth because Jesus was just born regular way and was later adopted to be Son of God. Virginal birth was there to highlight Jesus' divine character from birth. That was dogmatic reason for that. It was not primarily about biology. It was primarily about theology, that Jesus was Son of God from his birth. And then some others move it, like in Gospel of Luke, into the time of conception. He was divine from the moment of conception. And then in Gospel of John, we hear that he was divine from the beginning of the times, even before the creation. In some traditions, Jesus was predominantly a healer, exorcist, and miracle worker. In another tradition, he was primarily religious and political prophet, and yet in another, a spiritual teacher, even an esoteric guru. Some early Christians believed in resurrection of the crucified, some others did not, because for them Jesus really never died on the cross. Either it was just an appearance, or it was a substitute person for them who died on a cross, or just a physical semblance of Jesus, like a physical empty shell, died on a cross, while his essence departed and never really suffered or died. For them, cross was unimportant anyhow. And I did not touch upon eschatology. That's that word about, the final things, and about apocalypticism and revelations, different levels of revelations actually. Many Christians believed an imminent second coming of Christ, but then there were some for whom it was completely irrelevant. They also had revelations on the other hand, but those revelations were not about the second coming. Their revelations were about esoteric spiritual teachings. Revelation how to get into heaven, how to get the proper knowledge. And this is just a very brief description of early Christianity, and the way I described it would be roughly already present around the year 150 of Common Era. While the ink on the last biblical writings was still wet, and there was still not an inkling of the Bible as we know it as an authoritative book for our faith. It hasn't been collected in that way. Some of that might happen actually first with some heretical or that alternative groups, like with Marcion. He came up with that idea of collecting books into an biblion. Each and every group I mentioned in different combination of those different teachings, has either ancient name or was given a modern name. And so there were Ebionites and Nazareans and Marcionites. I mentioned Marcion just moments ago. Valentinians, different Baptist sects, Basilidians, many more of them we just guess that they existed and don't know much about. And this early Christian variation and diversity is really fascinating. Such religious and spiritual creativity and richness is absolutely breathtaking. I love it. And it is to some degree present in the Bible. And I love it pointing it out to all those who think that there was always only one Bible and only one true Christian faith and one way to be a Christian. This Sunday's reading about Thomas is made exactly for it. This gospel story is a theological dialogue with what we can tentatively call Thomasian Christianity, known to us through Acts and Gospel of Thomas. And on bulletin cover, you have the opening paragraph of the Gospel of Thomas in the Coptic script. It looks like Greek. It's not Greek, it's Coptic script. And in the bulletin, inside in the liturgy, I quote the preamble and the first logion translated by my teacher, Peter Pokorny. So this is the very opening of the Gospel of Thomas. These are the hidden words which the living Jesus spoke, and Didymus, Judas Thomas, wrote them down. And he, understand Jesus, said, "Whoever finds the meaning of these words will not taste death." And then it is followed with a collection of Jesus' parables, Jesus' sayings and aphorisms. Many of them are known to us from the Bible. And there are a few unknown, or there are slight permutations there. But all of that which is in the Gospel of Thomas is just about the teaching. There is not a single mention of healing, any kind of controversies, or crucifixion, resurrection, not there. Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas is a teacher and bringer of immortality, as we read right at the beginning. You need to study and properly understand. You need to achieve knowledge. And in Greek, that'll be gnosis. Gnosis. That's the beginning of Gnosticism. Have a knowledge which will save you. Now you know why in the Gospel of John there is such an emphasis on crucifixion, on those wounds on Jesus' body. There is such an emphasis there on the resurrected still having those wounds in hand and in his side. It is not any form of holy sadism. Not at all. It has, again, a theological reason for that. Those wounds in the Gospel of John are pointers above and beyond that, this esoteric teaching, above and beyond that individual immortality or personal salvation achieved by a special sacred knowledge. This is pointer towards something else. And you know me, I love knowledge. I think it matters. but I do not believe we are saved by our knowledge. I love early Christian diversity. I love especially pointing it out to the Christian fundamentalists and bigots. But at the same time, I am rather orthodox Christian. I do believe that cross and Jesus' crucifixion are center of our faith. And I am personally upset with myself and take it as a sign of my failure as a pastor, that for Easter Sunday we had this church full, while for Good Friday we had a handful of faithful worshipers. I am clearly failing in this fundamental Christian value, or passing it on. Not only that Easter Sunday does not make sense without Good Friday. Good Friday is the center of what makes us Christians. Easter Sunday is just a consequence and a postscript. Just look, Gospel of John is pushing it forth. The same message. The wounds are present even in the resurrection. Those wounds are important because the faith can be and should be so much more than just a spiritual egotism. Those wounds are telling us that the suffering matters. Suffering of the tortured, marginalized, those who are poor, the oppressed, that matters. It mattered to Jesus during his lifetime when he was feeding people and healing their ills. But it mattered to him on his very body when he was experiencing it, dying on a cross. It matters to God. That's why Jesus was resurrected. And it should matter to church and to all of us. Only Easter Sunday without Good Friday is just incomplete. It is docetism. There is a word for it, docetism. That means that dying on a cross was just a dream, or that was illusion. It is in a danger of spiritual consumerism, spiritual selfishness. Christian congregation is not here as a bunch of selfish, individualistic salvation seekers. We are not here for that reason, trying to figure out the right knowledge, right answers, or right passwords, right rituals, how to escape this world and sneak up to heaven. That's not why we are here. That is why I cannot be agnostic, because I believe that God cares about and for the physical world, and that joy and suffering do matter. And a substantial part of our Christian calling is to strive against the suffering and expanding the realm of joy. That is why I cannot be agnostic and hope you also cannot be. We are not spiritual escapists because we care about our neighbors. We care about one another. We care about our city. We care about our world. That is the essence of this story, that invitation to touch the wounds given by Jesus to Thomas, called twin, and to all of us.